All right, to finish off this module, um, we're going to take some time and you're going to watch a few films and a few news caps regarding a case that took place in Minnesota, November 22nd, 2012. Now, it's hard for me to believe, to be honest with you, that this was 8 years ago. Um, this particular event took place in the town of Little Falls. Little Falls is a town north of St. Cloud. Many people who have headed to Detroit Lakes or to Brainerd, you know where Little Falls is. And it's interesting because this case took place probably, I would say, 12 miles from where my parents live. And at the time, my sister was less than 2 miles from the location of this event. But this event in November 22nd, 2012, took place at a personal home residence of a single man, and he it involved two teenagers that had been born and raised and grew up in Little Falls. And essentially, what comes out of this is a burglary that leads to a homicide. And you're going to watch a documentary. You have an option to watch a second one. Keep in mind the documentaries are going to be very biased. They are really the story being told from a specific perspective. So the reality is, in the end, two people end up deceased, and one individual gets taken into custody and is tried with their murders. So I'm just going to go through a few things with you prior to viewing anything that you're going to. Little Falls again, if you know the area going north to Brainerd, you would go through Little Falls and go up on 371 through Brainerd. If you'd be going to Detroit Lakes in that area, you'd still go through Little Falls and you would end up going Highway 10. Now, people who go Highway 10, what they will find is that the location of this murder, the burglary and murder, actually can be seen from the road. These are actually pictures that I took a couple of years back. I was at my sister's house and I said, you know what, take me by the place. And she goes, are you kidding? Well, no, she did. It's much harder to see in the summer because of the leaves, but in the winter you can clearly see the house from the highway right before you cross the Mississippi River. A little aerial view of where this house is located as well. These pictures I also took on the other side of the house. Um, I've taught this case. I remember this case very clearly when it happened. I grew up in south of Little Falls, so I am familiar with that area. But anyways, so moving forward, um, I'm going to clear off. Hopefully this clears off. Nope, that just did not work for me. Okay, we're going to try that. Nope, now I just deleted the whole slide. Okay, I apologize for that little glitch. What you're seeing right now is a screenshot of one of Minnesota's criminal laws. And I'm going to walk you through this because I think it's really important that we have a very good understanding of what this law says, because you're going to be asked to reflect on this law a number of times. So basically what this life, it's the 609. All Minnesota laws start with all Minnesota criminal laws start with the first three numbers 609. 609 indicates criminal code in Minnesota. So 609, we know it's a criminal issue, and the title of this law is the justifiable taking of a life. Now, according to 609.06, it states that you are not allowed to take the life of another person. Okay, there's that whole idea that law is there to protect us as individuals, not only from ourselves, but protecting us from others. So the intentional taking of a life of another is not authorized in Minnesota. Then we get this word right here, except. Now, this is going to, we think of the no vehicles in the park. Well, no vehicles can be in the park except that becomes an issue. So in Minnesota, you cannot intentionally take the life of another except when you are resisting or preventing what you believe is something that is going to expose you to great bodily harm or death. Okay? Or, not to make it any more confusing, we're going to add an or in there. So you can't take someone's life in Minnesota unless you're trying to stop someone who you believe is going to hurt you badly or kill you, or, and again, there's that or you can take somebody's life when the person is committing a felony. Now, not everybody runs around knowing what felonies are. So they make it even more specific. Committing a felony in my house. Okay, so let me just go through this one more time. In Minnesota, you cannot take the life of another person. Good thing. Except when you feel it is necessary, if you believe somebody is reasonably trying to harm you or kill you, or they are committing a felony in your home. So this is the law in question in this case. When the two kids broke into Byron Smith's home, and he was home, and they broke in, that is considered burglary. That is a felony. He, being downstairs in his home, heard the break-in. He armed himself, and he ends up shooting the young man first, and then a little later, the young lady. So by this law, I would read it as this. And I'm going to try to find another color since I'm really making a mess out of this. My apologies. I would read it as Byron Smith was justified because somebody was committing a felony in his home. Point blank. Okay? That's what you're going to have to do in this activity, is you're going to have to keep that law in mind. Does Byron Smith have the right by Minnesota law to take the life of these two kids because they were burglarizing his home? I want you to think about that. Okay? I'm going to show you a couple other pictures before you start. These are actually crime scene photos that were used in the case against Byron Smith because not everybody believed he was justified in what he did. And so the young man broke in through a bedroom window. Byron Smith happened to be downstairs. Okay? Byron Smith was in the basement sitting in a chair. He heard the break-in and he armed himself. Okay? His chair, and don't judge people how they organize their homes. His chair that he read in was wedged between two bookshelves. On the other side of this bookshelf is a chair that you're going to see. There's a chair here, and then there's a TV up here. So he has his reading area, he has a sitting area, and then over here he has a couch, and there's a table in this area here. So it's kind of crammed together. You're gonna see, or in the video, one of the videos, where the young man actually tries to get into the basement, and there's a door right around here. So when he tries to get into the door here, Byron Smith is sitting not even feet from where that took place. Right, so you get a little bit better picture. Here is his reading chair. Here is the chair that I was telling you, and his TV. And I think, yep, a little bit different view. This is so if we're looking at this picture and he's sitting here, this is the stairway that's coming down the stairs. That's the stairway those kids took. And so from a different angle, his chair is sitting right on the other side of this bookshelf, and they are coming downstairs. Okay, just a couple of different, this is a drawing roughly from the perspective of Byron's chair. He saw feet, legs, and then hips, and that's when he started firing. Okay, this will make a lot more sense, but I'm not going to go through this right now. This is a piece of evidence that was used during the trial. You can come back and take a peek at that if you'd like to. This is one of the weapons he used. This was the young girl's purse, and we'll get to this. And then the obituary pictures. Both of them were killed on the same day, November 22nd, 2012, and their funerals were together. They were cousins, very close cousins, having been raised together, and their families were close. And so that's really what you're going to be looking at as we go through this. But it all comes back to this law. And I know there's a lot on that. Let me see if I can't clear that up a little bit for you. Minnesota law. You have the right to take the life of another person if you believe you are in harm's way, or they're going to kill you, or they're committing a felony in your home. But again, make sure you remember it has to be in someone's home, the victim's home. Okay, that's the big thing. So if I go and I look at Module 2 on Schoology to see what exactly is it that we're going to be responsible for with this particular assessment. Module 2 will take us through, and I know it doesn't say it yet, but this will actually all be put together and due by 8 a.m. on Friday, April 17th. So you're going to get a week and a half to do this whole module. And what is the whole thing is, again, you probably should have already watched these three basic lessons on what is law, why do we have it, what's it for, why do we have some state laws and federal laws. You should have already gone through and done those prior to this. As you see, the first one is a 5-point, second one 7, third one 7 points. So those will go into formative grades. Then the video folder. The video folder has what I'm asking you to watch. Part 1, 2, 3, and 4 of this particular, this is the required video that I want you to watch. This 12-minute on Elm Street, and I probably should drop that one. This 12-minute on Elm Street, boy, that didn't work well at all, is a secondary. It's a video I have shown in the past, but I do think that there's much more, I don't know, I think it's just a probably more interesting video from the Chris Matthews side of it. And so those are the 4 you have to watch. In the assessment that goes with this, these 2 videos are actually linked in your assessment for this. And so if I go back and look at the module, there's the video folder. I have linked here for you what an exemplar response to these questions would look like, and one that was lacking some information, so you can actually see where points would be given. You have to show me you know the information. That's my big thing. Prove to me you know this. This is the PowerPoint I just showed you, so if you wanted to go back and look at some of those images, and this is the summative assessment that goes with this. So I'm going to pop this out so we can see it a little bit better. Or no, it's going to be a pain. So you're going to be asked a number of questions. First two are very easy. This question here is asking about that law, and it says, in which two specific situations would you be justified in taking someone's life? And you're truly going to repeat what the law is saying. Okay. The next question is dealing with after you've watched the video, the documentary, you're going to provide two items. Could be witness, could be evidence, could be anything that the prosecutor, the person who is hired, excuse me, not prosecutor, defense attorney, you're going to be asked to identify two things Byron Smith's personal lawyer should or would have presented to the jury. Okay? You're not having to explain these, you're just saying these are things the defense attorney should present to the attorney based on what you're seeing in those videos. The next one's worth 3 points, and this one's actually easier. 3 items the prosecutor presented to the jury. Oh, you're going to have about 14, 15 different things. I'm only looking for 3. Okay? The next 2 questions deal with 2 more websites. And what you're doing is you're just looking and giving me a basic understanding. What is the difference between first and second degree murder in Minnesota? And then what is the main difference between robbery and burglary in Minnesota? Okay, so you're going to be looking at some Minnesota laws. Then the video is the sheriff explains the Minnesota laws. What is so interesting is that you saw the law. The law is right here. Okay, that's pretty spelled out. However, when he speaks about the law, he actually shows and says that there is a point where force needs to end. And this question is saying the sheriff states when a person can no longer use force. Toward the end of the video, tell me what it is. When does a person have to stop using force if they feel they are justified in taking someone's life? This one is asking 2 things, 2 more things that were pointed out in this video that maybe the documentary didn't show you. Then you're going to watch the video, the news clip from Channel 5 when the verdict was reached on whether or not to convict Byron Smith of murder for these 2 kids. You're going to tell me what was the verdict of the case. Do you believe this was the right decision? This one I want you to explain. I want you to tell me, why do you believe that? And then the last 2 questions are trying to pull this all back together so that we're all back on the same page together. 2 points. Think about the Minnesota law that's in question here, along with the process you went through when determining, can a cop car go into the park? Can an ambulance? Can a garbage truck? Can somebody pushing a stroller? Could those be let into the no vehicles in the park activity? Okay? You should be able to see some similarities between those. And then the last one is considering what you're thinking about in this question. Provide me 2 thoughts, could be 2 thoughts, 2 questions that come to mind that may have gone through the jurors' heads as they listen to this case. Okay? What are some things they might have asked? What are some things they may have wanted to know more of? You're just brainstorming. And then what you need to do is identify a challenge. When the 12 of those jurors got into a room and had to decide, is Byron Smith guilty or not, what do you think they argued about? What do you think they wanted to clarify? What they may have discussed? Okay, we don't have that information, but I want you to think about what could have possibly been something that was going through their minds at the time. So I know you will enjoy this. I know you're going to find this a very interesting case. And again, this is going to take us through April 17th. So watch the videos, do the work, contact me email me if you have questions. Otherwise, it's not a fun case, but it is an interesting case. So good luck.